Massachusetts Department of Transportation announcing the winners today of the second annual Name a Snowplow contest. The contest receives entries from elementary and middle school students all across the state, but only 12 names can be chosen. Abby, I have a feeling you want to add to this.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to see these names.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
The names will be assigned then to a MassDOT snowplow that'll be in service during the 23-24 winter season. Now here's a list of the winning plow names, all from students right here in Western Mass, because we get the most snow anyway. In Chester, a fourth grader won with the name Flower Power.
No, Flower Plower.
Oh,
Plow.
Flower
so
Plower. I love
so
that
good.
even better.
Yeah, they're so creative.
In Westfield, first grader came up with the winning name Glacier Gobbler.
Which, you know, technically it's what they're
It
doing.
is. I'm still partial to Flower Plower.
Yeah.
Shelburne Falls, sixth grader there chose Edward Blizzard Hands.
That's my favorite. That's
And in Orange, an eighth grader went with the name Polar Pathmaker. In Sturbridge, fifth grader went with a classic movie name, The Snowler Express.
That's brilliant.
All of them are wonderful. Congratulations to all those deserving and funny winners.
Oh, we love it.